You are listening to the Bloom Where You Are Planted podcast. I am your host, Gray Tham. I've created this show for you to gain insight and inspiration from some of the amazing people I've met in my life and through my business, Simply Gray Photography. I hope you enjoy meeting these people as much as I have. Enjoy our show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 2 of Bloom Where You Are Planted. I'm your host, Gray Tham. The topic for today is Health is Not an Event with Michele Scherr, a health and well-being coach, helping people to get the best from their bodies and their mind. And Michele is also one of our amazing 50 and Wiser club members. Like most women of her age, Michele has a lot of experience in a lot of areas. She's a wife, a mom, a grandmother, a sister, a daughter. I don't know. How many more fingers do we have, Michele? You're a lot of things there. And well, as you will learn today, Michele has so much wisdom to share with us. So let's get started. Hello, Michele. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Gray. Thank you so much for inviting me in. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate this opportunity to talk to both you and your listeners.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Michele, I have to tell you, and Michele and I were just chatting a little bit before this, but one of the reasons why the 50 and Wiser Club book got so big is because of you.
Oh, really?
Yes. Listen, when you came in and we sat down and we did our interview and I heard your story, at that point in time, I really realized I had to share more than just a little blurb, more than just a quote from each woman and just a little bio. I wanted to really give space to everybody's stories. I wanted your story to be heard. It was so inspiring to me that I knew it would be inspiring to others. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gray.
Yeah, every time I lift the book, which I said, Michele, we're going to show a little bit today, but every time I lift this book, I think of you.
Oh my gosh,
Your
I
story
can't wait to get it.
inspired, and I'm so happy now. And that's why I said I'm so happy with the podcast. I wanted people to hear from you, women, like I did. Hear your voice, get to know you more than just the pages in the book. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so awesome. That's so awesome. I feel really touched. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. You're an inspiration to me. So I'm so excited to share your wisdom with us and everybody listening today. So let's get started. All
Let's
right.
do it.
So, Michele, tell us a little bit about your story. I know you've told me, but tell all our listeners, why do you do what you do and why are you so passionate about what you do?
Okay, so I've always had like an affinity for health. Biology always came really easily to me. And when I was growing up, I was kind of, do I be a doctor? Do I be a nurse? And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a nurse because to be a doctor means I have to study for the rest of my life. And bazinga. So does everybody else. I didn't know that. So anyway, I became a nurse and wanting to be the best nurse that I can be, did a lot of study. I worked in Air Force for quite a long time as a registered nurse in uniform. And then when I came out the other side, I really didn't know what I want to do. And to be honest, I'm still figuring it out a little bit. But I'm very much, I was medically discharged from the Australian Defence Force because of injuries and illnesses that I'd picked up along the way. And that was when I started to realize that, you know what, I don't want to spend the latter part of my life in doctors' rooms, in waiting rooms, in having investigations and tests and all of that sort of thing. I actually want to live my life and with joy, and I want to do the things that I want to do. And that's what made me really passionate about helping others to try and let go of that short term, I need to do this, I should be doing this, I need to start looking at what's the long term? If you do this now, what's the long-term hurt or what's the long-term gain? And I have a number of clients that are complex health clients, which, I absolutely adore them because they're so open and just helping little things can make the biggest difference. And that's what I love to see. I like to see people living with joy. I like to see them as happy as they can be. And
I like
I like to know that, maybe I've had a little bit of input into that. That gives me satisfaction.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you've been able to use your past experiences to help other people, because I know that you struggled quite a bit after retiring also with what's next in my life. There's nothing left for me. So my
Yeah,
goodness,
absolutely.
kudos from where you've even gone from where we spoke to each other last year. You've grown
Thank
even
you.
more. You bloomed even more. There you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you've called this Bloom Where You Planted, the podcast, because I often think, with my experience and what I've grown through, it really doesn't matter where you are. You've got options, and you can bloom or you can wither and die. So you really do have options. And that's, I think of my deployments where so many times people get caught up with what's happening at home, things that they can't control. And yet I think, I am where I am. I might as well make the most of it. I can't do anything about what's happening at home. I've done everything I can to set it up for success. Now I need to just let it play out and just tuck a bit here and, just make sure it stays within the tracks and make sure it
Yeah.
all keeps going.
Well, I think, and that's why I did name the podcast Bloomer You're Planted. I didn't know it was such a popular name actually, because there's a couple of us. But yeah,
Ah,
100%. We just have to look at where we are today and make the best where we are today. And not even like location either, but just anyway, we're going to talk about a little bit more about
we
this,
are. We
even like
are.
our age or our body, or how can we make that
Yeah.
better? So let's
Yeah.
go to the next topic then. So tell me a bit, like we named today health is not an event.
That's right.
What do you mean by that? You got to tell me. I'm curious.
Well, actually, someone said to me about fitness not being an event. So you've got to work on it consistently. And I thought, you know what, the same applies to health. Because if you put that in the fitness context, you can't just go, I want to be healthy. I want to run a marathon for life and then not do anything. I want to run a marathon every 6 months, but I'm not actually going to do any training for it. That's not going to work. You can't just, it's same with health. You can't just say, oh, look, I want to be healthy in 6 months' time and then not do anything towards it. Or I'm going to be healthy for my 50th birthday. And then I do all this work, hit my 50th birthday, and then go, okay, I'm healthy for my 50th birthday. Okay. But if you're going to be healthy, why don't you just keep it on? So little things every day contribute towards being healthy. Little things every day contribute towards keeping you out of those doctors' waiting rooms when you're 70, 80. You don't want to be spending, like, when I first started nursing, it was not unusual for people to die in their early 60s.
Mm.
Now we've got our lifespan has hit in Australia, I think it's 82 or 84 for men and 87 for women. But I did notice the other day, the stats coming out of the US is that lifespan is actually starting to decrease. It's almost like we've hit the upper range and we're starting to decrease. And why? Because of the way we live now. It's like we've hit the the top and we're starting to come backwards again. And I find that incredibly interesting because we've also got research going in that's coming out at the moment, going into areas. There's 5 areas around the world called the blue zones. And in those zones, they have the most people who are living to 100. And the research is, well, what have they got in common? Why have they got so many people who are living so long? And I think there's actually a Netflix documentary on it or something like that at the moment. But so they've got things like the way they eat, the way they move. So not just exercise, it's activity during the waking hours, the way they sleep, the way they socialize. It's all the things that I look at when I'm health coaching someone, when I'm looking at their health and well-being. What social supports do they have? Because it's amazing what those things do to our physiology, to our biology and our mind. We're learning so much more every day about the mind and the body, how the mind works with the body and how the body works with the mind. It's just incredible. It's incredible. It gets me going every time. So I'm really
It
passionate
is so
about it.
amazing because I've read a lot about that too while writing the 50 and Wiser book. And
Yeah.
what I love so much, where they say that the people in Japan, like in that blue zone, that because they live as a community even as they get
Yes.
older. So they're not
Yes.
like what typically happens, you go maybe into an old age community, but a lot of older people get so isolated and it's just
Yes.
not good for them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I just
it's,
love the fact that they said these people that are living to like 110, they still have purpose within their community. Like they're still like the go-to person, or they still might be in their veggie patch bringing the
yes.
I just love that. And they have the other thing I loved was like they have a passion, like their life purpose or a
Yeah.
passion. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I look at the generations after us and I see the isolation. I mean, the pandemic was a
Yeah.
great example of that, the isolation, and particularly in Victoria and Melbourne as well. Well, Melbourne was
Yes,
just what
particularly
it
us.
did
Yeah.
to people, what it did to people. And
Mm.
now it's going to take years to reverse the damage that was done. And people are still fairly isolated. They're still isolating. They haven't all come back yet. And so that's going to have quite an impact on our health system here in Australia and around the world. It's going to have an impact on health systems of how do we deal with that now? Because we've caused damage by isolating people.
Yeah. Yep. No, we
So,
need to be part of
yeah,
a community. We all need to have purpose in that
yeah.
community.
So health is not when I say health is not an event, what I mean by that is every single day we can do something towards that purpose, that living, not only living longer, but living well. Because living longer, like I said, when I first started nursing, and it was usual for people to pass away in their 60s, unusual for people to reach 70. And oh my gosh, if someone was 80, oh, how did you get there? And most of those people are in nursing homes. Whereas I look at my mother-in-law now, who's 86, and she is fiercely independent. She is very active, very vital. And, I look around at other older people and I just think, wow, 20,
Yeah,
30 years ago, this was unheard of.
that's right. Yeah, you don't want to live just to live for a living's sake. You want to be
Yeah.
able to still, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the next thing let's chat about. You told me a bit about living to your values. So we're living
Yeah.
well, we're living better. We got to keep our health up rather than I think I was a little bit, I think maybe I was a little bit of, I turned 50 and I got healthy and
Yeah.
so I'm going to take your advice here, my dear. But what do you think
Okay.
about living to your values? Can you tell me a bit about that?
So, one of the things that I learned, and this is a personal lesson, and I hope that it helps other people in hearing my lesson, is that I very much grew up not knowing what my values were, what my personal values were. And it's kind of like that saying that if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which way you choose.
Mm,
If you don't know what your values are, it doesn't matter really what you do. So I would morph into whatever I needed to be for work or whatever I needed to be for a social situation. And I didn't really know who I was. And I think the defining moment for me, or moments for me, was when I was being discharged from the Defence Force and I had no idea who I was. I didn't know what my values were. I didn't know how to live to my values. So, knowing what your values are gives you a bit of a framework of how to decide, is this good for me or is this not? How much of a priority is this for me? Does it fit with my values? And I've started to, now that I'm more aware of my values, I've started to go, you know what, being with these people doesn't actually match my values of fairness. So, for instance, and I'll totally a made up scenario. If I was with people who are very bigoted or racist, And I'd be going, you know what? They actually don't match my values of accepting people for who they are, where they are. So they're not bad. I'm not going to say they're bad people or anything like that. I'm just going to say they actually don't match my values. So I might move over to another group who do match my values, because it makes it easier for me, and it reflects in my physiology. It reflects in my biology, because I don't have that external stress of how is this working, and how is this, the internal conflict causes your body physiological stress. So by living with your values, so for instance, my number one value is health. Go figure. But then I would find myself putting everything else in front of my own health. So I've got something happening at work. So I'd work extended hours, or I'd go on deployment and I wouldn't eat well. I'd very, very little exercise because I was so busy all the time. So I didn't really need to exercise as, a specific hour in the day or anything like that. But I would come back and I would be exhausted. Adrenaline wise, I'd be exhausted and all that sort of thing. I would be putting my health behind everything else because everyone else was much more important than myself. So one of the things I've learned, and I'm still learning this because it's, 50 years of habit, I'm still learning this, that I need to go, here's my schedule. I put the big rocks in first, i.e. things that align with my value of health, things that align with my value of family, those sort of things, they have to go in first. And I fit other stuff around it. And if it doesn't align with health, so if it means that I'm going to be overworked, if it means that I'm going to run myself down, not get enough rest, that sort of thing, I'm saying no to those things, which kind of really leads into the next thing that we were going to talk about.
I really like that. Let's put our big rocks in our calendar first. Been told that before, and it's so, so important. Put those exercise or whatever it is, me time in first, and then work around that.
Oh, absolutely.
So this one you said to me, and I love this one too. Slow down to go faster.
Right. And that's what I mean by putting those boundaries in around things that are valuable to you and slowing down in life. So to use the example of family, and I use this with my clients, you can have two people who have the same value of family, but it's demonstrated in different ways. So it could be someone whose value is family. Their value is keeping a roof over their heads, making sure they're fed, they get the best education possible, they're clothed, all of those sort of things. So I need to go to work, I need to earn money. Whereas another person's value, someone who has family as a value, it might be time. I spend time so that I interact with my kids. The kids have special memories. So when they grow up, they have memories of us, how much they're loved and stuff like that. It doesn't mean either person is wrong. And there's a variety of how people demonstrate their values. But I think in putting boundaries around things, it means that you don't fill your life up so much that you end up run down and you end up in chronic stress, chronic fatigue, all of those sort of things. Because one of the things I also like to say is stress won't kill you. It's the lack of recovery from the stress that will kill you if you allow the stress to continue without recovery.
So a little bit of stress is okay, but you need to make sure you have that downtime.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really
so stress is essential. Stress is absolutely essential to growth. But if we don't have that downtime, that's where people become unwell with that chronic stress.
Yeah. That's a good way of thinking about it. And I think now you talked about with the slowing down, and so you can go faster. I guess you slow down so you can go faster on what's really important to you. In your value system.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if we keep just going fast, I guess what you're saying is then we won't actually really get what we want to get out of life.
Yeah, you won't invest. So the idea of going slow is to put some boundaries in.
Yeah.
around what is really important to you. Because I see a lot of mums, and, whether they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, I see a lot of mums doing, doing, doing. And you kind of go, well, why are you doing that? And they go, oh, because this one needs it, work needs it, kids need it, husband needs it. But hold on, if you're not here, so let's slow down. Let's slow down and see, do your kids really need to be doing 4 activities each after school that you've got to run? You've got 3 kids, you're running them to 4 different activities every afternoon. Do you really need to do that? Do your kids really need that, or do they need to be with you? Can you slow down and then advance the things that are really important to you?
Yeah.
And I mean, it might be, that might be perfect for that individual of running, having 3 kids and running them around to 4 different activities as the example. That might be perfect for that person. But then when you add in the work demands, the house demands, the relationship demands, all of that sort of thing, all of a sudden they're just going fast. They're like a hamster on a wheel. They're just going fast, going fast, going fast. So I get my clients to slow down. What's really important to you? What are you doing that you can shed so that you can get towards your goals quicker?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the gist of it. That's, slow down to what's important to you, which allows you to get to your goals quicker.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice. And it's not always easy, but
Oh, no one said it's easy.
so I guess we know. All right, everybody, if you need help with that, I'll leave Michelle's details on where all the details are for this podcast. But yeah, no, and it does actually just take sometimes someone to go through that with you, Michelle. So
It does.
that is an amazing thing you do, because it's so hard for as a person to sit down and say, what can I cut out? But when you talk it through with someone, you kind of realize, oh yeah, that maybe that's not all that important. So that's I commend you. I love the direction that you're going into.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you.
So the other thing, and it's something we talked a lot about in the 50 and Wiser book, is about how us women tend to be so self-critical of ourselves.
We do.
And I guess sometimes when we keep ourselves busy because we don't want to reflect so much, it's not easy to reflect, but it's so important. You promote unapologetic acceptance of self. And I so agree with this. I so agree with this. We are just so hard on ourselves, and it's hard to just accept us we are. What is your top piece of advice on how we can love ourselves for who we are?
I think the
Accept
top
ourselves and then love
Yeah.
ourselves, I guess.
I think the top piece of advice, and I think this is a work in progress for many of our generation, considering what we grew up with social conditioning and all of that sort of thing, it's a work in progress. And I think be kind to yourself and speak to yourself, have expectations of yourself, the same as you would with your best friend. And I know that this is it's not rocket science, and it's not something new, but embracing that. And even if you put stickies around on sticky notes around on your bathroom mirrors or something, like, would I say that to my best friend? Would I treat my best friend like this? Because it's not easy. It's not easy. And I myself, yes, there are days where I struggle with it. And there are days where I just go, you know what? I am awesome. And I need to tell myself that more, because I am perfect just the way I am. I am perfectly imperfect, and that is just perfect.
And there's no such thing as perfect anyway. So
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And Gray, to this point, I'm actually co-authoring a book with a friend of mine, Karen Foote, and it's about midlife, and it started off as a weight loss book, but it's become so much more. And it really does address how can we accept ourselves for who we are. So a little bit about identity, a little bit about idealism, ideal weight, ideal body, ideal fitness, all of that sort of stuff. We're looking to, if you're interested, readers, if you're interested, follow me along on social media. You'll
I'll
see it coming out.
well, keep me posted on how that goes. That sounds great. And something that you said, like, let's talk, I mean, listen, I'm sure a lot of our listeners, were women 40 to beyond.
Mhm.
I mean, we always are thinking, and sorry, this is a bit off the cuff, Michelle,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we're always like, I'm not my ideal weight. Well, what
Oh my
is the
goodness.
ideal weight? Like, seriously, like, what is it?
Yeah.
Is it what we used to be? Is it what
Oh
we
gosh,
are
no.
now? Is it what somewhere in between? Like, what
Do
is
you
it?
know,
Is it so our genes fit again? I mean, I don't know. What
I
is
know. And
it?
I love that you've asked this question, Gray. I love this question because I'm assuming that you and I both grew up with Cindy Crawford and Kate Moss as supermodels and, all of that sort of thing. So we've grown up with this expectation that the people that we see in the social media, they were stick thin. Like seriously, they were stick thin. I think Elle Macpherson was the thickest, if you could say that,
Oh my goodness.
but she was just muscular,
Yeah.
whereas the other girls were just thin. And we grew up with these expectations of that's what women look like. And part of what I've learned along the way with self-acceptance is my body's not designed to look like that. My body has been designed for strength. It's been designed for resilience. And if I look back over what I've been through, the trials and tribulations and, all of that sort of thing of my life, so I
Mm,
was built for that strength. I was built for that resilience. And so the ideal weight for me is very different to the ideal weight for somebody else. And I actually don't promote ideal weight. When weight is part of the health picture, it's
mm.
not the only thing. So with my clients, we do weight, we do body mass index, we do waist measurements, we do all sorts of measurements, external measurements. And then with their GPs, they might be doing bloods to check, so that gives a whole picture. So your ideal weight could range depending on who you are
Yeah.
and what your body is built for. So someone who is, and I'll use extremes here just to paint a picture. So if you think about someone who is a marathon runner, and you tend to think of someone who's very lean because
Yeah.
they do so much running, there's very little, their body fat percentage is really low and all of that sort of thing. And then you think about someone who's a weightlifter. There's a reason that they are designed the way they are and doing the sports they are or doing the activities they are. If you put a weightlifter over into the marathon running, they can absolutely do it, but they'll never do it as quick as someone who's built for marathon running. If you put someone who's delicately boned, built for marathon running into weightlifting, they are never going to succeed at weightlifting like someone who is built for weightlifting. So when I talk to people about ideal weight, I tend to take the conversation into ideal functioning.
Mm.
How does your body support the things that you want to do? Does it need to be a particular weight? Can it be a weight range?
Yeah.
Does it need to be that, I have to be 72.2 kilos or whatever that is in pounds? I'm sorry, I don't know the pound
We'll
equivalent.
do kilos. We'll do kilos.
Um,
If we have any American or I guess Americans are the only ones in pounds nowadays. They can Google what that
Google
means.
it.
They can Google that.
But yeah, but being 72.2 kilos, does that mean that you've got the energy that you need to do what you want to do? Does that mean that you're constantly starving your body so your body's under stress so that you can be that particular weight? So to me, it's about, okay, what is it that you want to do? Because if I go by BMI, oh my gosh, I'm well and truly over the normal range. And that's okay with me because my body is about strength and lifting
Yeah.
weights. So I've got much more muscular volume and a bit of, padding. But that's okay. That's okay.
That's okay. And actually for us women at our age, I think having that strength of muscle is so important to keep
Oh, going forward.
for balance, for for
Yes,
everything. Yeah,
absolutely. So muscular strength, balance, all of those sort of things are really essential to work on as we get older.
yeah,
So for that body that is delicately built, lightweights, great. For the body who's more sturdy, heavier weights. But doing
yeah.
weights and having that strength is actually the functional strength of the body is much more important than an ideal weight.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's the question. Yeah. There really is no
Yeah,
ideal weight.
correct.
Oh my goodness, we've covered so many topics, my dear. I can always talk to
Yeah.
you for ages. Um, okay. I'm gonna go to our book. Let's go to our
Okay.
book.
Let's
So
do that. Let's do
one of
it.
the favorite quotes I have for you in the book is, "I'm still emerging." Yes, I'm in my 50s and I'm still emerging. And I heard you earlier, you said that, "I'm still emerging." Most people when they think, "All right, I'm gonna be 50, I should have my life sorted. I should have,
Oh gosh.
everything. I know what I'm gonna do." But that's not just beginning, most of us women. Like, it's just not true. So tell me, how are you still emerging, my dear? And how
Well,
are you coping with that?
I'm still learning. Am I still emerging? I am absolutely still emerging. I have days where I'm down, days where I'm up, days where I feel like I've achieved so much, and then days where I just don't want to. I'm still working on the boundaries because, like I said, 50 years of habit. I'm still working on my eating so that I am making the best of my body, that I'm fueling my body um, rather than causing issues for my body. I know when I'm eating things that are too inflammatory because I get quite a belly. So if I go back to eating how my body is built, that inflammation goes away.
Yeah.
So, yes, I am absolutely still emerging. I am learning every day. And I think life goes through cycles. And I think that's exactly how it's meant to be. We're meant to continue to learn. We're meant to continue to evolve. And yes, I'm still evolving, still emerging.
Well, to our listeners out there, if you feel like you don't know what you want to be when you grow up, it is okay. It is okay. It is okay. Oh, so the 15 wives, like, how did you find the process of coming in and being photographed and having to be in
Oh,
front of the cameras while you're still emerging, Like, how did you find it?
yeah, look, I had the best time, Gray, and I've said this to you before, and I said it to everybody that I recommended the project
So
to.
thank you so much for all your recommendations.
That's okay. I had so much fun. You and I laughed, and I really didn't feel self-conscious because you and I were laughing so much and we were talking and the conversation just kept going. And, that bit of pampering, getting my hair done, getting my makeup done. I was just like, this is just lovely. And I absolutely had the best time. And yeah, and when the photo reveal, oh my gosh, I looked at those photos and just went, holy smokes, that's me. But wow, who is that girl? Who is that woman? She's just gorgeous.
She is
And
gorgeous. You're gorgeous.
thank you. And as you know, I had to get my husband because I couldn't decide. And I had to get my husband to come in and say, this or that, this or that, this or that. Because just such stunning photos. Thank you so much.
Well, I capture what's in front of me, and you shared your heart with me, so it really showed through. So thank you.
Yeah.
So, oh,
Oh,
that's great.
thank you.
Well, one of the images we took, so we did talk about a lot of stuff, and we talked in our 15 Wiser book, actually, which I show you guys, I have here. Sorry, Michelle's telling me how I can do this on the video. but it's so exciting. Look how thick it is. Yeah.
I can't wait to get my copy. I so can't
I
wait.
know you can use it for weights. I'm telling you,
Oh,
you can lift it, us women. But with Michele, because Michele was in the Air Force and she brought her medals with us, and and we actually had them in the studio room with us, and it never seemed to be a right time. Never seemed to be a right time. And I didn't. And then when it towards the end, I said, "Oh, Michele, we should really photograph with the medals." Like, yeah, we talked a lot about it in your story, which when you guys read 15 Whys, she really talks a lot about that. And we didn't know what to do. We did not know
no.
what to do. So I handed the medals to Michele, and I'll let her tell you what went through her mind. But I didn't know what to do. Like, I'm used to usually photographing images, especially with women, with a, joyful. I'm not saying this wasn't joyful, but I snapped this image with Michele, and it was quite intense. And she picked up those medals and she just looked at me, and my finger literally just hit I was saying to Michele before, I don't even know if I was looking through the viewfinder. So I think I'm pretty lucky I didn't cut off your head. So, but it just, I know, I just took it. And at that moment, I said, I think we got it. But then I said, let's try some other things. But this is the image that we did get. I think I took one with you looking down at them, and then you just
Yes.
looked up with me, because we
Yes.
both didn't know what to say. We both didn't know.
Yeah.
And I used my instincts to just take it. And
Yeah.
I think we didn't even pick any of the other ones, did we? Because they weren't right, were they?
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I guess those medals hold a lot of emotion for me. And we
Mm,
talk about values and boundaries earlier. And those medals for me encompass what I gave up to do what I do. So, what values I put aside, what boundaries of my own boundaries that I crossed to do what I did. And so when anytime we want to make a change, there are consequences of our choices. Or let's talk about choices. Anytime we make a choice, there are consequences of that choice. So you have a range of choices at any one time, but there are consequences. And to me, those medals embody the consequences of my choices. So there's a lot of heavy emotion that goes with that. And I think I remember telling you, at least I think I do, that I hadn't been able to wear them. I hadn't been able to put them on. And since that time, it was almost a bit cathartic for me, Gray, because from that time, I have actually been able to wear them, I think,
oh,
2 or 3 times now. Yeah, but it's sitting with that emotion and accepting the emotion, accepting what I didn't do so that I could do
yeah,
for the country, I guess, for the people, for Army, for Navy, for Air Force. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so it is quite an emotional thing, and I'm sure you can hear the catch in my voice.
yeah, I know
um,
it, and it still is. And I guess
mm,
whenever we have that emotion, we're still working through them.
yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to thank you for sharing that rawness with me, and also helping me is what I do as a photographer, be able to sit in that awkwardness to sometimes capture those images that have the most emotion and mean the most.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
yeah, because sometimes, as a photographer, you want everything to be, "Hey, we're gonna use this word again, picture perfect,"
yes, yeah,
there's no perfect, but the
yeah,
best thing is to capture the raw emotion. And yeah.
yeah, and
So
you did that beautifully.
yeah, that was a real moment for me too, because
Yeah,
I was out of my comfort zone. But it's one of my favorite in the book.
thank you.
And so I actually didn't write about my side of that. I wrote about your side, and why um you felt the way you felt on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my dear. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So, my goodness, we're almost to the end here. Now we got to talk about the launch. We're going to
A
be launching
lot.
November 9th. Finally, this book.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
I so
excited.
can't wait.
I so can't
I've
wait for you to come
as
down.
as soon as you put the dates out, I was like, okay, husband, we need to book, we need to get accommodation, we need to fly down. We have so got to be there, and we've got to be there for all the events. And this is going to be huge.
I
Can't
know it's
wait.
going to be so huge, and I have well anyway. I can't share. I have some things that are in the works too that to celebrate other women that like it just anyway. I can't share
Awesome.
that yet, but you'll have to stay tuned because I don't like to share things before they're confirmed. So,
Okay.
um, but no, I just can't. I'm so excited. So thank you for coming from Queensland. Like I think
Yeah.
you'll get there's going to be two of you flying down from Queensland. I think.
Oh, is that right? That's
Yeah, so
awesome.
we'll see. Yeah.
That's
Maybe
so
we'll
good.
have to have
So
a
good.
little award for this
Ah.
reunion. But okay, so before we leave, thank you so much for today. Before we leave, is there anything else, any last thoughts you might want to leave us with?
Look, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Oh,
This certainly doesn't come around all that often. And the opportunity for me to start to work through some stuff by being raw and being real with you was an opportunity for me to work through stuff,
oh,
and it's opened my eyes to another world, introduced me to the Go Girls, which I think is such a wonderful charity. Oh my gosh, the Go Girls Foundation is doing such wonderful things for women at risk.
yeah.
I just think it's fantastic. So yeah, I guess I want to say to your listeners, hang in there, keep listening to all of these stories because you are bound to find something. If this doesn't resonate with you, something else will.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
You
Keep
just take
listening.
one little tidbit from something. I think
Yeah.
that's right. Oh, thank you so much. Now, okay, so Michelle, how can our audience find you?
Well, I'm on all the socials. So Michelle, as you can see in my block up here, it's Michelle with one L. And
Yep.
Scherr has an SCHERR.
Yeah.
I'm on the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook. I don't tend to do too much on Instagram at the moment, but certainly you'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me in LinkedIn, and michellescherr.com.au.
Oh, great. Well, I'll make sure that wherever you guys find this podcast, I'll have all Michelle's links in there because she shared them with me. Now, Michelle, you had a special offer for our listeners
I do.
today.
I do. If anyone is interested in what I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
about the sort of coaching I do, we actually have so when we start out with measurements, as you do with anything, you start with the big terms, then you start get smaller and that sort of thing. So I have a document about health types because that's where we start with people, then we go health types, then we get into smaller divisions, and then we go even smaller until it's individual. So I have a document about health types that may help you to understand the type of things that I look at when I'm coaching someone. So if you're someone who's struggling with your weight, if you're someone who's struggling with activity, if you're someone who's struggling with stress, struggling with, I don't want to be a shouty mum anymore. If you're struggling with energy, I just don't have the energy to do everything I want to do. Have a look at this because it prioritizes for each person or each health type. There's a priority of areas in your life that you have to get settled before you go on to the next area. So it may not, we're talking about weight, for example, it may not be what you're eating and what your exercise levels. There could be other things that you need to get in place before you start looking at that, because without those other things in place, your body is so stressed, it
Yeah.
can't deal with the food and exercise properly.
Yeah. No, that's a good.
So
I like that. I like that approach. I will definitely put a link to that also and where people can find the
awesome.
podcast. So, oh, I hate
Wonderful.
to say goodbye, but you know what? Those that are listening to us, well, they might hate us saying goodbye, but
Oh, I hope so.
we'll have to wrap. But thank you so much, and I can't wait. Actually, if you guys who are listening come to our exhibit, to one of the events, you definitely can talk to Michelle more. We're gonna have name tags for all the 50 and wiser ladies, so
Wonderful.
everybody could actually talk to you in person. So
Oh,
So just a
wonderful.
reminder, our lovely book here, The 15 Wiser, is on pre-sale. So it's still $10 off the retail. You can find more information where you found about this podcast, or you can go to the website called simplygray.com.au. And as Michele has interesting spellings, I do too, because Gray is spelled with an A, not an E. So, and also save the date, November 9th, where we're launching this book, and then for the exhibit the next following days. So, and as Michele talked about, all proceeds for the book and the exhibit will go to the amazing foundation, the Go Girls, who help women at risk in country Victoria and in Melbourne. And you never know, as they grow, they may even go beyond that. So that's quite
Oh,
exciting.
gee, I hope so. I hope so. They're doing such good work.
They're
I hope
doing,
so.
and they have so many good things in the work next year, so that they can bring more people on board, so that they can actually have people help them run the business, so they can work on what they
Lovely.
really love, is which working.
Awesome.
So
Fantastic.
yep. And my favorite phrase lately is, alone we can only do so much, but together we can do so much more. So thank you so much, Michele, for sharing with us all of your good tips and insights and wisdoms. Yeah.
Thanks, Gray.
And as you said, we've had 50 years to build up, I don't want to say bad habits, but
Habits. Yeah.
So listeners, be gentle with yourself. Like Michele said, be gentle with yourself, because it takes some time sometimes to get through that 50 years, isn't it? Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michele.
Thanks, Gray.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Bloom Where You Are Planted. If you enjoyed listening today, please give us a like, love, or a 5-star review wherever you found us. Or better yet, share us with your friends. Have a great day, and remember to always bloom where you're planted. This podcast is sponsored by Simply Gray Photography.